Good evening, guys, and welcome to the fourth Nights at the Round Table. I'm Abby Whiteley, and I will be your host this evening. This is a monthly discussion panel for the Quidditch community to come together and share their knowledge and expertise. Tonight's theme is recruitment, freshers, Fayre and Beyond. So we'll be discussing recruitment and retention with some of the people who know best. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Right. Hello, everyone. My name's Anjit, and I'm the president for SQC this year. I was also a sabbatical officer for 2 years at the Students' Union, so I know what kind of support and other stuff societies can get from them.
That's cool. Right. I'm Tom. So I was the founder of Brizzlepuff's Quidditch Club, and I'm also expansion manager of the South region at QuidditchUK. So yeah.
So we have some very prestigious guests with us this evening who know a lot about recruitment. So we're going to start with UK directed discussion, and then we'll move on to questions from the community. So to start with, what do you guys think of what are the crucial things to have good recruitment? So what do teams currently do well? Give us some examples. And what are people failing to do? Where are the major issues, broadly speaking, before we get into more details?
Mm-hmm. Tom, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I think, well, as long as I've been around type thing and seen new teams pop up all the time, I think, so I can't emphasize enough how important social media is, really, because I think a lot of teams use that as a sole drive to really set up a team and to appeal to a wider audience, and they post on freshers pages and things like that. I think a lot more teams now realize that than before. So I think at the start, teams weren't really using that to full effect, but I think now they're coming up with engaging material, funny stuff that reaches far and wide. And really, if you're good with your social media and you know where to post, the members will come rolling in eventually. So it's about just keeping an audience engaged and, yeah, being kind of laid back, not being too official with it. That's been my experience of it, obviously. It might work different, different places might not go down well at Oxford University, for example, when you're doing dark. All sorts of hashtags around, but yeah, that's what worked for us. So yeah,
I've personally only seen one recruitment from SQC's viewpoint. I sadly missed the Bidwell streak of just getting points in through the team, but I think where the problem sort of lies is you'll get people through the door. You literally just need to put the word Quidditch out there, and everyone's automatically instantly intrigued. Do you guys fly? Do you have capes? They are questions, but as soon as they ask questions, they are engaged. The problem, I think, well, we faced at least, was retention. We had loads of people, but due to, I think, the lack of matches and everything, people kind of just started fading away, because training sessions are all well and good, but you kind of want to do that. And socials are so important for retention, because why would you join a club or society? It's if you basically have fun there, you can find a second family there essentially, and you just have a memorable time. So I think those are the key things, how you can sort of keep people. I think that's where a lot of clubs go wrong, maybe.
So do you think there's a danger with regards to socials in terms of, especially in the early days, a lot of clubs get set up by basically a group of friends. So you get this insular, you get a very specific dynamic. How would you recommend to make socials more accessible to freshers, and how do you stop that from becoming basically, you've got this core of players who, when they leave, suddenly the club collapses?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, you want to go first, Andrew?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a very tricky situation, because it depends who the oldies are. If they're second year, then obviously they'll stay. But if they're in their third year, they've just set up the society, and then they've got first years just sort of joining the club, then it's how do you keep that balance? And in terms of the social sort of making sure it pertains and caters to everyone, so I'd say it's just common sense, in the sense you have non-alcoholic socials, you have alcoholic socials as well. I mean, it helps to have a pub named The Hobbit in Southampton. But just finding places where everyone can have a good time. I don't think anyone or any club in the UK at the moment has faced that problem, but it is something that can come up. But it's just sort of having, I would say, non-alcoholic socials, not because I don't drink, but I think that's where you sort of have those experiences. You get to know the others better as well. I mean, obviously, alcohol makes things better as well. But I think non-alcoholic socials laser tag or bowling or something, I think that would be quite a cool thing. That sort of pertains to everyone.
I mean, I would expand on that by saying I endorse Anjit's message of alcohol makes everything better. But really, I would say, especially last year for us at Brizzlepuffs, because we obviously expanded into a second team, it sort of made things a little bit harder because even on pitch, you're not really together, I suppose, if you have two different teams. So we noticed at the start, you know,
Tom, you with us?
interacting that is usually just about using your initiative. So, for example, we introduced a scheme called the Squirearchy. So it's buddied up basically with a mentor as such. And we do socials like that. So instantly put a new member with an old member. It would obviously show them the ropes of Quidditch, show them an old and sort of forcing them together. You don't want it to be like a year 6 disco where, you know, or whatever, on opposite sides of the room. You want it to be one big happy family, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because obviously there's a well-established dynamic of setting up mentors and mentees in an on-pitch capacity, but extending that to a social domain is quite an interesting idea.
Yeah.
So I'd just like to come back to, you mentioned social media, and I think it's doubtless that when you don't have, you know, Quidditch isn't in the public consciousness so much, especially not sixth formers. They're not coming out thinking, oh, gonna join Quidditch at university. Those are pretty few and far between. So what would be your top tips, both of you, for engaging people on social media, and how do you outshine other societies advertising on this freshers page? Because it can get completely bloated. You know, you've got your freshers pages and there are like potentially dozens of societies posting. How do you make yours stand out?
Okay, I might speak for a while here, Tom. I have a lot to say on this. Firstly, find out what avenues you have. I have been persistently, and persistence is key. Like, you need to have that drive. You need to have persistence. Be it one person, be it 100 people. You don't need to have a massive army to actually get social media right. One person can literally control V into 100 groups and it will achieve the same effect. But find out what mediums are available to you. For example, University of Southampton has 12 different Facebook groups for all the halls of accommodation and every single person that lives in private rented accommodation. So go there, literally type in. We've got a big, massive Facebook group for the freshers. So all the freshers are on there anyway, plus the halls Facebook groups. So that's one thing, the outlets where you can actually publicize them. Ask your students' union whether or not you can actually publicize your posts and stuff on any screens that they have on campus, or even your university if you don't have a students' union. And the second thing is content. So that's very important. Obviously, if you go, hi everyone, would you like to join Quidditch and this, and this, it's a bog standard post. You will get people looking at it, but it's how you're different and how you catch the viewer's attention. If it's a video, then I think it's a really cool idea that if you have someone, like, for example, on their broom in a still frame flying, and you're like, we do fly, and I was like, no, we don't, it's actually this, and this. Something that grabs people's attention straight away off the get-go and actually makes them wonder. And if you're just writing a normal text post or something else, then something along the lines of, yes, there is a Quidditch society. No, we do not have capes. Yes, it's mixed gender. No, we do not use wands. Yes, it's a lot of fun. So stuff like that, I think, is very important in getting people sort of engaged. So yeah, medium and content are, I think, the two biggest things. And none of that matters if you're not persistent. So just be persistent as hell.
That was beautiful.
Beautiful speech.
That was beautiful. Not the first time I said that. So I think really for social media, my top tips would definitely be, like, as Andrew said, like, it literally won't count if you're not persistent. Like, you feel like you're bothering people, you're halfway there, I think, with it. Got to keep pushing and pushing. And as Amjad said, like, different groups, you know, they get notified every time a post comes up in that group usually. So, you know, you're just as likely for them to click on it and see your post and then be like, what is this? And end up joining, you know. So, you know, as many groups as possible, whether it just be, you know, the yoga society or the halls of residence or the whole freshers group, whatever it is. And that's just not restricted to universities. That's, you know, community groups as well. Like, you know, for example, with Amjad, you could, you know, the Hobbit regulars, you know. For example, you can just post them there, and you know, that's really persistently doing that. You will get their attention eventually. I also think content's really important as well. And don't just be bland, you know, be funny. And if you're not funny, get funny.
Tom, how would you get funny? That's a question I'm asking. How would you achieve that?
I know Queen used to do a stand-up for Quidditch or whatever it was, like something funny for Quidditch or whatever. So maybe take one of their classes, maybe from Ben Morton or someone, whoever ran that. Those were good times. Yeah, and I really do think video is important. I think nowadays, I think people will obviously question, do you fly, how does it work, etc. And really seeing is believing, I think, on that note. So you really want to be showing them a video, and it is just like a sales pitch, I guess. So along with your video, you have, you know, catchy stuff. So it's really cool that some teams this year got to go to Italy and compete in the European Championship. Mention that, definitely. It's also cool if your team had the best kit, or, you know, won best chanters, or I'm just listing up for us.
Hypothetically, you know, like whatever.
Yeah, or, you know, if you finished dead last at BQC but had a massive, like, fun time doing it. That's just make it a sales pitch, make it accessible, and most importantly, make it funny, I think. Otherwise you get lost in the crowd, because as Abby says, there's so much stuff nowadays, you know, you have to compete with.
And I think there is an issue if you say, oh, you know, we're taking ourselves really seriously, then people are going to go, okay, bye. Like, people aren't going to be appealed to by that kind of hard sell. And I know this isn't my platform, but I would say my top tip is like getting groups now. Like, like if you're Oxbridge, get in all the college groups, because no one is going to be adding you in 6 months when you've got 2 mutual friends in that college. They're going to be like, who is this person? Like, probably like a Ray-Ban seller. So like people are completely indiscriminate at this time of year. So just like, regardless, like you said, you know, your yoga society or your Hobbit regular society, whatever, like, get in as many groups as you can at this time of year when people do not care who the goons are that are being added to it. Because then if you're suddenly trying to, I mean, first of all, why are you posting things in 6 months' time? That's not recruitment season. But also, if you're thinking about it sort of 4 or 5 weeks from now, that's too late. Like, you need to be getting in those groups now and posting as people are getting into uni, like as they're starting to move in. Strike while the iron is hot and the freshers are drunk, I think would be...
Abby,
Yes.
you gave me a really good idea, or reminder essentially, where you said, why would you post 6 months from now? That's actually not a bad idea, because lots of universities do refresher events where in January, February time, they kind of like do the whole freshers experience but relive it. I think that's a really cool time to actually get people involved as well, because it's like, oh, did you miss us at the freshers fair or the societies fair? Fear not, here's your chance to get involved the second time round. So I think that's a really cool point, or a really important point, that people can recruit later on in the year as well if they missed the gun first time round. I'm
just so grateful that Bristol don't do freshers week, because week again, I'll be honest. But yeah, admittedly, like, you know, that is the key time to recruit, and Abby's completely right. Like, I've seen some societies do it like 2 months before, you know, results day and things like that. You're just missing it there slightly. Like, results day was like a really big day to recruit, because that's when people were like, yeah, I'm now going to university, so I can now join this group. So you get maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people join on that day. So posting then, and they'll be looking at it, and then they'll start to realize, actually, this is just a group for spam, you know?
But before they realize that.
Yeah, before I realise it, that's straight while the iron's hot, definitely, and get them while they're drunk and confused.
For Quidditch. I know I didn't realise refreshers was a thing at all. Oxford doesn't have fun during the year. So.
Yeah, not everyone does.
Well. Okay, so moving into sort of from the realm of social media into the realm of real things, we're going to talk for a little bit about Freshers Fair. So, how do you make your team stand out? I recommend you can hand out to people, and also, how do you navigate the issue of which section of the Freshers Fair you're in? Like, are they trying to put you in with, like, you know, your LARPing sock, or are you managing to get in with the sports? And how would you recommend navigating? Well, there's like 6 questions in there.
Yeah. You want to take this one, Anjit, first? What do you think? Yeah. Okay, so we've been quite lucky the last couple of years in terms of, in our first year, we were like next to no one. So I think we were next to like the UKIP society and people like that. So no one came to find us at all. So the year after that, we were right next to Domino's. So you want to be next to where people hand out the free stuff, basically. because they will flock there. You know, as soon as there's rumors of dominoes in the building, people will flock there. So even if you don't end up next to the sporty societies, like I wouldn't recommend going to next like American football and rugby and things like that, but things like ultimate frisbee, you know, even stuff you need. Like I think it's really important to outreach as well during those events, because it's just one event a year that you're going to get to network with other people, I guess. So you maybe go put yourself next to the photography society or the videographers, you know, the filmmakers, etc., because you actually could need those. They're useful contact.
Come and take pictures of us.
Yeah, people lucky had AJ, but like, you know.
How to recruit stars.
Yeah, we swiped him last minute. But yeah, I think really you shouldn't. I think the problem we had last year, we kind of overcrowded the stand a little bit. So I've made a whole thing about having like a starting 6 for your Freshers Fair. So you need like 2 or 3 quid pitchers, okay? Who just basically are really good at pitching. It's got to be short, sweet, catchy, and basically will be able to make a presentation and convert that into a sign-up. Mm-hmm. You don't want them speaking for too long or getting too boggled down about the rules. I think people do that so much. I think they describe in so much detail that it just gets completely lost on the person. So prepare a pitch. No more than 60 seconds. Keep it short and sweet, you know, and they'll remember it. You know, if you go into the whole details of Rulebook 9 or Rulebook, whatever Rulebook we're on now, whatever, you know, it will get lost. You need a master bait, I like to call it. So you send someone out into the realm of Freshers Fair with flies, okay? Someone who's quite outgoing and will just direct you to the stand, basically. I think that's super important to have. Because, you know, if you are next to the UKIP Society, for example, no one will go there. So you need basically someone out there. That's what I like to call them anyway. You can call them whatever you like. But, yeah, someone to basically direct people to the stand. You need someone doing tech, obviously, because so many things can go wrong on the day. And my number 1 tip would don't use paper for sign-ups, okay? Because you'll end up with lots of people noting that you can't read, and then you've got to put it all in later. So if you are doing sign-ups on the day, get 2 or 3 laptops, make a spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah.
So much easier and just causes so little fuss. So definitely do that. And then if you have them, someone to, you know, take pictures or videos or just run the social media generally on the day, because, you know, they will still be looking at stuff and opportunities that they might have missed. So, yeah, I think that's like the ultimate starting 6, really, for Freshers Fair. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool. You've pretty much covered everything I wanted to say. What I'll add to that is something that you will, it depends on what your university is, how it functions, so on and so forth, but what you will get in majority of the places are queues. And whilst queues are really, really good to make friends, queues are also the perfect place to flyer. And it's not like you're going around, it is, and it's not like you're going around saying, oh, would you like to join the UKIP Society? It's like, oh, do you want to join the Quidditch Society? Someone in that queue will go, oh, yeah, why not? And if you can't see a single queue, and if you just see loads of different people, if there's a table there, this is my message of persistence coming in again. Just stand on top of the table and be like, does anyone want to know anything about Quidditch? Look at people going, what's going on? Because it's how you stand out, and if you've got a personality, obviously don't look like a complete idiot, but if you've got a personality, people won't be like, who's that weirdo? People will be like, oh, okay, he said Quidditch, I'm interested, let's go. Other than that, yeah, echo what Tom said. Even if you're stuck in a really bad place, just try and maximize your opportunity by thinking of as many creative ways as you possibly can. I know that Southampton last year had enough space in outside where the society's fair was for different societies to have exhibitions, so to demonstrate what they're for. Like, for example, if there was circus sock, they would throw juggle balls in the air, so on and so forth. So for Quidditch, what we had during the open days as well, and in one of these ones, is we just had a snitch, and you just had to try and get on a broom and try and catch the snitch. It's a really cool idea. You can literally just say, yeah, you got 30 seconds to catch the snitch or something else, and obviously make sure the snitch doesn't throw them onto the floor if it's a brick or something. But you get the idea.
I bet Posford was right keen on that, wasn't he?
Sorry?
I bet Posford was right in there with that.
He wasn't there, surprisingly. He was too busy something about tractors. Don't know. Anyway, so I think that's very important. Another thing to remember is Freshers' Fair, where you have your societies, isn't the be-all and end-all, because if you've had a big, massive welcome party the night before, chances are loads of people haven't made the Freshers' Fair. They just will not have made the Freshers' Fair. So just go to when you've actually got other stuff going on as well, because if you've got a Freshers' week, you will have a Societies Fair one day. You'll have one of those free fairs where your students union invites all these external companies like cabs, internet people, and everything that you just give you freebies. Do you know what you get on those days? Queues. You know what you can do with queues. You can climb. Just be as ruthless and persistent as you possibly can, because it will pay off in the end. And another thing where Tom said about networking and trying to speak with other societies, go speak to the captain of or the president of the dodgeball team and ask them, do you want to have a joint training session or something? Quidditch team will take on the dodgeball team, or go to the netball team, and just try and steal players if you want to.
I love it.
Yeah, like just do all those. Just try and have a chat with them, because if they know, they're like, okay, you know what, this guy's pretty cool. Then you've got that rapport, and then any time in the year, if you're like, oh, you remember how we met at the bun fight, or bun fight is what we call Societies Fair. Stupid, don't ask me why. But like, oh, do you remember how we met at the Societies Fair? Do you want to come try Quidditch? And then it's not just freshers you're recruiting current society members doing other stuff. I mean, that's how we got Ollie from rowing. So lol.
Oh. Yeah, I think that's a really great idea, especially what we do in the summer is, obviously it's difficult with exams, but we have what you call cuppas, which is competitions between different colleges and stuff. So what we'll do is you'll often have open invitations to be like, hey, if you want to sign up as a society, so like Quidditch can go, and we did tag rugby one year, and you can do things like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So what you can also do is, one year we did like an exchange where it was like, okay, we'll send like 5 or 6 people to dodgeball and play you at dodgeball, and then you send 5 or 6 to Quidditch. And having like sports exchanges can be really good, especially with, you know, the people that know the struggle. So like frisbee, dodgeball, like the slightly like not weird but quirky, like they know the struggle kind of sports. They tend to be really receptive. And I would 100%, after 2 years as secretary, staying up all night digitizing handwritten emails, please take laptops, because we weren't allowed to plug in laptops, so they would die, obviously, because it's like a 7-hour event or whatever, and it was hell. And the amount of people, because that is awful, like, please digitize your mailing. So moving on, we're going to talk about taster sessions now. So, you know, you've got their attention, they've shown up in their like trainers, and we're going to discuss how do you get them hooked on that pitch on that day. So to start with, what are your favorite drills? Start integrating the full contact aspect, you know, in that first session or the first 2 sessions.
I would say the first thing that you need to do is introduce the committee. If you've got 13 people on committee, that's fine. Just make them all sound really, really cool, really, really engaged, really, really out there. And then tell them, do you know what? You've got loads of questions about how does this work? How does this work? This, that, and the other. And just say, what we're going to do is we're going to give you a quick 5-minute exhibition of what Quidditch is all about, so you can see for yourself. And I think having like a proper game essentially for that 5 minutes is really, really cool, because people are literally just watching, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And then once they've seen that, then you kind of go, okay, so we'll get into the rules later, because as Tom said, last thing you want is to just bog them down with rules straight away. And I'd say, I mean, Amy, our coach, might defer with me, but I think like just basic stuff like run around on a broom, do nothing else. Catch a ball, for Christ's sake. You might have people who never caught balls before. Never, ever, ever. Yeah. Shout 2 hands at them if you have to.
You always have to.
Yeah. Better get that in early rather than later. But try and make them fun as well. So incorporating stuff like Quidditch Hunger Games, or because it's simple. It's got no rules. It's just literally, if you're on a broom, good. If you hit a ball, good. You're out. Snitch Hunger Games, or just simple on-broom races. Like, it's new to them. Everything is exciting and shiny and like, ooh, what's going on? So it's not boring to them. So I would say use advantage of that and just try and get them hooked that way.
Yeah. I agree with you. Like, I definitely recommend keeping it simple to begin with, because, like, again, if you boggle them down with too much of the rules, they're going to be so conscious that they're getting it wrong. So I think, you know, keep the rules simple for them to begin with. Every taster session we do, we split them up into like different positions and like have almost like a circuit training type thing going on. So you got like people trying out chasing, beating, seeking, whatever. We make them try everything, and then they can basically decide for themselves what they like, what they didn't like, and then we end up playing a big game at the end, in which they can basically do their own thing. The one thing I think is really important is that you make it clear right from the start that it's okay if you look like an idiot. It's okay if you keep dropping balls. We were all there once upon a time. That's fine. Look at us now. You know, we won White Knights. Yay! You know, that kind of stuff. Okay, so he's got to keep it like, make them feel like they're part of something bigger. I guess make them feel like they're part of a family, and really start, you know, striking those. You know, don't have the old players sitting at the side and just being by themselves as a group and talking and laughing at them. Like, no, integrate them and, you know, just really be open with people, I think, definitely. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about that.
That's very important that you said about older players not just sitting on the side and integrating with them, because if someone's literally doing nothing, send someone to go and talk to them, because if they don't know anyone and they just showed up by themselves and you just make an effort to speak to them, then they've like, okay, made a rapport, know this guy, he's pretty cool, want to come back. Make the freshers like you. Sell yourself out. Do whatever it takes within reason.
Lie.
Within reason. Yeah, you can lie. You can be like, yeah, we fly for about 3 seconds and then we hit the floor again.
You could stay in the air for 10 seconds, I'm pretty impressed. Like,
yeah, that
is a good vertical. But yeah, I think actually what Tom said about trying the different positions is really important, because then you have a chance at redemption kind of thing. Because if you spend the entire time chasing and you are just not a born chaser at all, or if you're spending the entire time beating and it's just overwhelming and confusing and horrible, you're not necessarily going to think, oh yeah, I'll come back next week when I could be trying out Frisbee and I'll give another position a go. Like, whereas if they, because it only takes, I think beating's a really good one in terms of getting that immediate sense of success straight away. It's like, oh, I beat someone straight before they scored, that's brilliant, that's great. Like, and you feel really, you get that chance to be good at something in so many different domains. Or you might not be able to catch a ball, but you might be a brilliant seeker, and you might not realize that until you try it out. Whereas if you force them to stick in one position the whole time, or you don't encourage them to try different ones, then they might think, oh, this isn't for me because I wasn't good at this particular position. And we all know that's not the only way that you can be good at Quidditch.
Yep. It's ironic that Owa's dropped out, because I was going to mention looking fly-esque events or games, if you're struggling for like fun activities Quidditch related, is a really good idea, because you can get people hooked and it doesn't require comprehensive knowledge of rules. You can literally just have a David Delacca clay pigeon shooting contest where you just have someone running in a straight line and you've got 6 people in a line just trying to hit the guy. Simple, so simple and so easily achievable. And it says exactly the same as what you said, Abby. Gives them a sense of achievement. They're like, oh yeah, I can actually do this, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think, the ideal, the dream is, you get 50 people show up and they're all amazing athletes and they're all super keen. But realistically, your recruitment's going to come probably from like 60-40 in terms of not sporty versus sporty, and that immediate sense of, oh, I'm part of a team, or oh, I can make a contribution even though I've never done sport before. That immediate sense of accomplishment
is really, really crucial, really good, yeah.
So we'll continue without Tom and hope he manages to join back in. So you mentioned the clay pigeon shooting tactic. So, its official name. Yeah. So how do you start integrating people into the full contact side of things, especially for people that don't have a history of contact sports?
I think first and foremost, I know this is where you have to show them that it is the boring stuff. No one wants to see how to fall safely because everyone thinks they know it all. But it is an important thing, because the last thing you want is someone, God forbid, breaking a hand in the freshers taster session and no one else coming back. It's not happened before.
That sounds very specific.
Yeah, I'm just giving you the worst case scenario. It's never happened before. Don't worry, we're very safe. And trying to show people like how it can be done. Like just have two experienced people tackle like the other person, and then get an inexperienced person to try and tackle an experienced person so that they can coach them as and when they're doing it. Just like, yep, your contact's absolutely fine. Now try and drag me to the floor, so on and so forth. Tackle pads are a good one because you can show someone how to do it once. You can quickly just show them how to do it once or twice. And I think if like it's not too much going into the rules when you just say, just make sure you tackle from the front, just use one hand and do it in a safe way that it's below here and above your knees. And I think that's fairly sort of understandable because you don't need to tell them how to bring someone down at this point. You just need to tell them how to tackle someone without killing either yourself or the person you're tackling. I think it's quite important. But I think telling them to begin with how to fall safely when receiving a tackle is very important. Like the parachute, is it parachute falling thing where it's ankle first, then knees, then hips. Like it's how you fall, like buckle. I don't know. Ash and Emily taught us that when they came to Southampton. So it's like, yeah. Well, if any of you don't know what I'm talking about, message Ash.
I know what you mean. I'm just trying to visualize how that's like a parachute. But I guess
down. I don't know. They definitely called it parachute, but I think that's important from the safety aspect, and it's not very boring. And then just show them how to tackle people properly. I think that's probably it.
Yeah, and I think when you mentioned the tackle pads, that's really important because, like, there's something you don't really think about as a more experienced player, but it can feel very intimate to be like, yeah, just bury your face like in their body. That's fine. Like, whereas if you get the tackle pad, then there's something, you know, it's like suddenly weird, like, oh, I'm hugging you.
Yeah.
Because that can actually on a contact sport before it's suddenly like, oh, this is very intimate. So I think that's a really good point. So it's a general fact of life that freshers do not have a concept of what hard work is. So how do you keep people engaged as they start going, oh, well, you know, I've got like one whole essay. So how do you get people to stay engaged as they're saying, look, I've got deadlines or I've got work? I mean, obviously you can't do the hard sell and be like, well, it doesn't matter, it's fine, Quidditch is the only thing that matters. But how would you recommend making a work-life balance?
Well, actually, I wouldn't say
having to do that.
Definitely can't use your strategy of work doesn't matter, because certain courses in their first year don't count. So you can just laughingly say, it's your first year, it doesn't count, because all it takes is peer pressure for people to go, yeah, all right then, 5 of my friends are going, I guess I can go too. Obviously, please don't ruin their degree for them. Quidditch is important and it's the all and end all of our life, but let's not ruin someone else's life for that. But I think for freshers, like, I don't think you'll get that. You'll very rarely get freshers saying, oh, I don't know, I have an essay due or something else, because freshers usually don't have that much of a sort of commitment in their first year. This is traditional freshers. Like, if you have extensive courses, then obviously you have to sort of accommodate for them as well. But I would say there's two different things. One is retention and one is just people being lazy. So the retention side of things you can combat, as we've discussed, with the socials, with basically club members building a good rapport with freshers to bring them back, and with people saying, oh, I've got essay deadlines, this, that, and the other just before the tournament. That then depends on the team's attitude towards it, because I'll take Simon's example over here. If the committee and sort of the old guard per se lead by example, so they go, do you know what, I've actually got so many assignment deadlines and everything, but I'm going to handle them because I'm going to just organize and manage my time better. I'm just going to sleep 1 hour less or not drink tonight, something like that. It's how you get people to buy into that, and how you get people to go, oh, if he can do it, I can do it. And how badly you want something. Like, we all know how badly Simon wanted BQC, and he very effectively got all the freshers to buy into that philosophy. And you had people coming to every single training session twice a week. You had people coming to training sessions out of term time as well, because that's how badly they wanted it. You can achieve the same effect in another way as well. If you basically kind of go, oh, our club is a big happy family and we just want to train with each other more, or The other way is giving someone the Quidditch bug, because once they get the Quidditch bug, they're not only going to come themselves, but they're going to drag all their housemates and everyone else along with as well.
Yeah.
So I would say those are sort of the ways you can get that, but you will get people. You will get people who are lazy. You will get people whose minds you just can't change. But then it's just a case of how many people you actually retain to how many you lose.
Yeah. And I think to a certain extent, if someone can't prioritize or won't prioritize on by anyway, so there is an extent to which you have to cut your losses with that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to the questions from the community.
Okay.
And since we were talking about taster sessions, we're going to kind of segue into those questions first of all. So someone has asked, how do you run a taster session that has 80 attendees? So a massive taster session, everything's gone beautifully. How do you cope with that?
Okay, it's doable. We've done over 100 people coming on one day, so it's definitely achievable. Firstly, when you know you've got 80 people coming, make sure the area that you're actually practicing in is big enough. Secondly, have more than 2 sets of hoops. Like when I say 2 sets of hoops, I mean like 6 for one pitch and 6 for the other. So have at least 2 different pitches where you can actually run all these different sessions, because the last thing you want is 50 people learning how to chase and 50 people learning how to seek, and there's one person teaching the both of them. So I think Tom's idea of setting up a circuit, for example, where people can just rotate and shuffle and learn whilst being in small quantity at a particular workstation, I think is very, very good. And here's where, if you've got a lot of members in your club willing to help out and run these circuits, I think it'd be really beneficial. This is just my personal opinion. But otherwise, it's about being vocal as well. So no one's going to listen to you if you're just like, hi everyone, welcome to Quidditch. We're going to teach you how to do. It's all about being animated. It's all about just shouting at them so that they know what the hell's going on. Because you will have people who are either hungover, you will have people who just don't want to listen, and you will have people who just want to do their own thing and mess about. So I would say segregate the number into a smaller portion in different sort of areas and run it that way, with each area having different things going on. Unless it's like a big, massive Hunger Games mosh pit, in which case anything goes. But I think that, and have a plan laid out in the beginning. Make sure every committee member knows what you're doing beforehand, because the last thing you want is, right, Harry, are you doing that? No, you're doing that. Oh, yeah, I forgot. That you don't want that to happen. You don't want to look unprofessional. You want everything to be set up. You want everything to be ready, and you want everything to appear as smooth as it possibly can go. So organization, timings, like each thing, how long it takes, that's probably really important. And final thing, ask societies that have run over 100 sessions, message them and ask them for what their schedule is. No one's going to say, no, it's just mine, I'm not going to give it to you. Because they might have written copies and your workload has literally gone from 100 to 0 because they've just said, yeah, sure, let me just send mine over for you. It's for 100 people. If you've got 50 coming, just halve everything, or just use your own brain to see how it works for you. We've got over 35 in England. Is that right? Yeah, just ask one of them. Someone will be bound to be organized enough to basically do that.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. And I think what you said about making sure that everyone, all of your team are on the ball is so important, because if you show up and you're like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing, then you're already on the back foot. You know, it's already Quidditch, you know, your equipment probably looks a bit homemade, you know, and if you're not even running a professional session seriously, then how can they possibly believe you when you're saying, yeah, we go all over the country and playing all these matches? Like, it's not convincing, you know, and it's not, no one wants to join a society, feel like it's falling apart before they even start.
Yep.
Like, that's not appealing. I would add to what you said in terms of, if you've got all these different activities going on, attendance of your current players is so important. Like, even if you've got 7 players, make sure all of those 7 are there. Like, it's the start of term. What can you possibly have to do? Like, make sure that everyone is showing up, because if there's 2 of you standing there, they're standing there going, right, yeah, this seems like a full and comprehensive team. Like, you know, there's the basic issue of management. Like, how are you going to manage 50 people if there's 2 of you? And also, it doesn't look good. You know, how can you convince people that this is a fun and dynamic society to be part of?
Yep.
if even your current players aren't showing up?
Ask like this is I don't know how this could work because of different people having different fresher periods and everything else, but just ask societies or Quidditch clubs near and around where you live, if you've not got the required people to run a taster session, ask if they were willing to help actually come and help run the session for you, because that would be really beneficial and they would know what they're doing as well. They cannot always say, yep, we're from Bath or wherever, and we're just here to help you out, but then they'll know how to do things at least.
Yeah, exactly. And people have done that in the past, and it's been really productive. So especially if it's a young fledgling society, you know, if you're in a society that's struggling for people, then don't Quidditch teams or they're trying to recruit people. Okie dokie. So we have another question. This kind of leads on to what you said earlier about struggling to retain people when you don't have enough matches. So it's kind of we're on the same kind of training bent right now. So Anon has said overall a mixture is probably best, but which is more important at the beginning of the season, drills or matches? And elaborating on that point, is it a good idea to have games against other teams early on in the season?
Right. I would say matches definitely like outplay drills. But at the same time, you want to get the basics down, because they can play all the matches in the world. If they're not down with the basics, then they're not going to have a very good match. And it's all about the experience. If they're having a good time and if the experience is really, really good, then I think people will stay. It's a very tough one. This is probably a really tough question, because if you're a society and you don't live near another uni team or community team and you can't get matches that often, then how do you combat that? I would say if you've got enough people recruited, or if you've got a sizable amount so that you can actually have scrimmages between yourselves, I'd say that's an important bit. But at the same time, basics. If you knuckle down the basics, then they'll perform good in those scrimmages and they'll be like, oh, actually, do you know what? This is really, really cool. At the same time, if you're near around different teams, then definitely try and get a match in before Southern, at the very least, with another team. It can be anyone. Literally, it can be anyone. It doesn't matter if you win. It doesn't matter if you lose. It's just about players going, do you know what? We're actually playing a proper match. This is really, really cool. So I'd say, to answer that question, basics, you have to. There is no two ways about it. You have to make sure you've got the basics down and the freshers have got the basics down, and then it's down to logistics, where you're situated, who's around you, to see whether or not you can organize matches. But definitely get one in before Southern. I think that's very important.
Agree, because even if it can literally just be one match, but it's this sudden like, oh look, they're in different kits, they're from like a completely different place, oh super exciting. Like, it is the simple things, and you can stand there saying, oh, we're going to this tournament, all you like, but if someone can't make that date, where's the motivation to stay? Whereas if you're providing 2 dates, the chances that they can't make both of those is something much, much slimmer.
Yep.
So I've recently had a question submitted. So do you have any ideas about how you would recruit grad students? So let's assume they're not going to Freshers Fair. What are your channels of communication with graduate students?
So very, very interesting question, because I'd say float it around in the community. Do what Bristol have done. Bristol literally just created an online flyer, which was like, here's where Bristol is. If you're either a fresher coming over here, or you're a graduate that are moving like away from home, and you want something to try out on your weekends or something else, then do it that way. So online promotion is, I think, probably the biggest method that you can use. Get your family members to share it. Their family members will share it. Literally, it can spark from your mum sharing it and someone's mum's kid going, that's pretty cool. Actually, yeah, I'm going to Southampton as well. So I think that's an important thing. Other than that, this is just me coming up with ideas now. I've never thought about this. If you've got a parkrun event near around where you are, where loads of people just do parkrun, they make loads of announcements on the megaphone in the beginning. So just approach them and ask them, can I make a quick announcement? We're starting a team. It's a Quidditch team. If anyone's interested, recently moved here or lives here and wants to play, we take people of all shapes, sizes, everyone. Everyone's welcome. So that's a really cool thing that you can get involved with. Yeah, off the top of my head, those are the only things I could sort of think of.
Well, I think the parkrun idea is great because it's so easy to get lost in that university bubble and not think and be like, well, everything's on Facebook, obviously.
Yeah.
And like grad students are not going to be in the same groups as you. And get in the grad accommodation groups, you know, like don't just think about and stuff. So you broaden your horizon.
Yeah.
And community members, like they could enrich your squad so much, and we just don't tap that talent as a rule.
Yep.
Unless you're like sort of the unspeaker rules, basically, really. So we'll segue a little bit into sort of more image-based things. So, no one has given it. How do you get freshers to look past the Harry Potter aspects of Quidditch?
Okay, you're getting people there 9 times out of 10 with the Harry Potter aspect of Quidditch. Okay, that's the beat. That is the sort of truth. There's no two ways about it. The last thing you want is someone at Bunfight going, "Oh, that's Harry Potter," taking the mick and going away, and you getting into an argument with them. Don't do that. As to how you look past that element, it's all about your taster session, because you've got them through the door. Now getting them to stay there, showing them it's a professional club, showing them how well sort of organized you are, and showing them it's more than just capes and glasses and wands, I think is a really cool thing. You could even have it in a way where literally when you're having that first match and everything, you've got people lined up with capes and you've got people lined up with Harry Potter glasses, and then they just go, this is not what Quidditch is about. Quidditch is more than that. Obviously not a condescending or a ha ha ha, we tricked you way, but in a way of, oh, it's slightly different than what you would think. I think that's the best way of doing it. You can't drill into it. If people do come, you 100% will have people who will think, oh, this is just a really cool, normal thing, just like a Harry Potter Quidditch society where we just discuss Harry Potter, watch Harry Potter movies, so on and so forth. But then if you don't retain those people, it's not the end of the world, because you will have people who will go, oh, actually, this looks pretty cool. Some people will be fascinated by the contact element of it. Some people will be fascinated by the mixed gender element of it, something that we haven't actually touched on, gender.
We are about to.
We're about to, okay. Oh, yay, oh, goody.
Ooh. You saw ahead.
I'll just think of everything I say for 5 minutes, and then I'll say just so I don't say anything. But otherwise, I think it's the image that you portray of your society in that fresher session. I think that's very, very, very important. And from then on, the conversations that you have with people, because Quidditch is never going to be completely separate from Harry Potter. It's just never going to happen. So it's how you portray the sport as such in that taster session, I think, is probably very important, and how you'll sort of lead on to the transition of them thinking past the Harry Potter realm.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, because I don't think you can't be dismissive or rude about Harry Potter, because you're just going to alienate people straight away. Like, some people are going to basically say what you said and be like, well, sorry, but it is still Quidditch. Like, I get that you think it's a sport and everything, but it is still Quidditch. And then people that are genuinely really keen, like if you said joined and they were like, oh, Quidditch is a load of rubbish, you know, Harry Potter's a load of then I'd have been like, oh, okay then, you know, you will lose people that way. And I think it would give out the impression that you're not self-aware.
Yeah.
Found with Quidditch rabble that you have a concept of how people perceive it. And I think it's important to kind of roll with it rather than trying to act like you're above it.
Yeah, 100%.
Moving on to gender, as you foresaw. Do you have any tips for encouraging more gender diverse recruitment, especially for teams that are predominantly one gender at the moment?
Okay, when you have your recruitment fairs, make sure you have an even balance over there. Make sure it's not cluttered with boys, and at the same time, make sure it's not the other way around as well. Make sure you have an even balance of representation that you have on those stands. If you've got a club president, if you've got a club captain, or if you've got a club coach that is not a boy, that will help loads, because then girls kind of going, oh, we don't know. You're like, oh, well, Imi here did no sport whatsoever 2 years back, and now look at her. She's badass, and she's even Team UK training squad. So I think that's something that people go, oh, actually, do you know what? That's really, really cool. So getting that balance is quite right. again, same things. When you're showing the basic drills of tackling and everything, don't have a boy tackle a go. Have it the other way around, or show
Yeah.
both things, because it's like a lot of people won't really catch on to the fact straight away when they come to the training session, thinking, "Oh, it's contact. Oh, it's mixed gender. That's pretty cool." So I think that's very, very important, and I think recruitment fair is where you can see this message in really, really clearly and really, really effectively and efficiently. What was the rest of the question? I kind of forgot the question. I rambled on.
That's fine. Especially teams that are predominantly of one gender. So I completely agree. You know, you've got to have representation sort of as far as you can, as even as you can, right from your 90%. How do you deal with that?
Oh, that's a tricky one. That is a very tricky one. I guess online recruitment is quite important then, because when you post in a Facebook group, people don't know the make of your club. People don't know that it's 90% boys and 10% girls, if that makes sense. So when you do online recruitment, that's quite an important way of getting people through the door. But otherwise, if you've got housemates, beg them to come to that initial recruitment session. Say you'll clean their kitchen for them. Say you'll clean their bathroom for them. Just get them to come there, so that you're not lying. You're just showing that it can be done the other way around as well. It's not just one gender that's basically predominant, or however that said. But yeah, I don't. Is there any society that's actually currently, or any club that's actually currently struggling with this?
It was like the bottom, which is obviously not in the UK.
Yeah.
But I think most of the teams that are struggling for numbers full stop, rather than one specific, like one specific gender. But I think it is something that's always in the back of people's minds, especially teams that are kind of on the borderline. They're like, oh, we've got 4 or 5 of one gender, which is obviously not the bare minimum, but it's not ideal. But no, I'm not sure. I can't think of any club specifically that's obviously having that issue right now, though maybe some club has lost.
Yeah. But even if, another way I just literally thought off the top of my head was, have your minority gender people go to that particular society. So if it's like women's hockey or women's rugby, try and get them to go there at their particular taster session, and people who don't like make the cut or whatever, you can literally just be like, oh, do you know what? I'm actually part of the Quidditch Society. Do you want to come to that one instead? Because it's really, really cool. It's really, really fun. And you've got the same contact element of it and whatnot. So just trying to go to other societies, and the people who don't get accepted in other societies will probably excel at Quidditch. So
that is a great idea. You just be there like, yeah, I'm trying out for hockey. Me some hockey, and just be like poaching all that. Oh, that's a great idea.
Exactly, just poach away.
That is great. The online element as well, I think that's really significant, because that's where you have completely free reign over your image. Like, you can have women tackling and scoring in like every picture that you put out there, and they don't need to know that you only have 2 women right now. Like, they're not going to know that until they see the whole team, which they might not for a good 3 or 4 weeks, by which time it's too late.
By which time they are the team.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we know how much you love flyers. So we have a question here. What would you put on your ideal flyer? So are there any quirky attention drawing ideas that you have?
I think what York have done is really, really good, where they've got people like jumping on the broom and then planted on the broom, and it's just like general Quidditch FAQs. Do you fly? I think that's a really, really good one. But otherwise, from the standpoint of trying to get people down to Quidditch on the societies fair, I'd say you need to keep it basic. Like, have a range of flyers. You don't need to have just one flyer. You can have a range of flyers, and having one where you've actually got the place where you're actually training on, like Google or something. The time where you're actually training people is pretty important and pretty cool as well. Your club logo, have that on there. That's pretty important. And then just a brief sort of blurb telling people either about the sport or about your training session or something. Have a play around with different designs as well. Ask other club members, ask Quidditch UK members, ask anyone in Quidditch to have a read through of them to give them their second opinion. That's, I think, probably quite important. And clubs struggling with funds, try and make your flyers timeless. So try and make it so that you can reuse them next year. That will help as well. So if you train every Wednesday and every Sunday at the same time, just say training is at this and this time, every this thing. So I think that's quite an important one. Have a look at what other flyers are out there as well, because if you've got like if Team Bath are there or Team Southampton, for example, they'll have their own flyers that they'll be handing out to people saying these are all the sports that you can actually go to a taster session with. So make sure you get your sport or Quidditch up there as well, because that way you don't even have to flyer. Your hard work's done for you. People will just see, oh, Quidditch, 12 o'clock in the common. I will be there. So I think that's quite important. But there's no one flyer fits all mentality. Some people, if it's a perfect flyer, brilliant flyer, everyone in the Quidditch UK Facebook group loves it. You will have people in freshers going, what the hell is that on it? So it can't please everyone. The important things that you want to have on there is where your first sort of fresher taste session is taking place, what time it is, and a quick short blurb about Quidditch, your club image somewhere over there, and a message saying, can't wait to see you there, or something else. I think that's probably the best way to broadly tick all the different things.
Yeah, I think those are all great ideas. About the timeless. I know OQC last year spent a significant amount of time putting stickers over the time because we still had loads of posters left over and needed to put them all and change them all, which is really bad. I would say posters as well. Like if obviously we've got colleges and JCRs, but you've got your SUs, like put posters up. No one's going to take them down, or if they do, hopefully you'll get enough footfall to see it before it gets taken down.
Yep.
And also, if your training is in like a slightly awkward or out of the way place, what some clubs do, we haven't done it, but what some clubs do is they say, okay, if you're not sure where it is, we're going to meet here like half an hour before the training session starts, and meet us outside the SU at this time. We'll be wearing this kit. Come find us, and you sort of take them down to the session, so they're not trying to navigate buses and stuff all on their own. So that would be a tip that I would give. So yeah, just to wrap up, really, what is like your number one best piece of advice that you would have to offer for recruitment? You've given so much beautiful advice, but what would be like your number one?
Persistence. That is what will make or break your recruitment. You can have someone who knows nothing about recruitment. If they're persistent, they will have their way. They will recruit well. Get your entire committee, get your entire club, get your entire society on board, and just recruit the shit out of freshers. Be ruthless. If apologies for using the S word, but I don't care at this point.
It's fine. It's 2059. You're okay.
Okay, then. No one's watching this anymore.
That is a lie.
I couldn't hear you there. I don't know what number you said, but I'll just.
Don't worry.
I heard 50. I think persistence. Be out there. Try every single avenue that you possibly can. Go to different societies. Try and get them roped into it. But it's persistence. If that desire to try and leave a mark on your society, or if that desire to try and kind of go, do you know what? We as a club did this. We outdid the recruitment that was done last year. Have that aim and just try and speak to as many people as you can. Have your energy levels up and just be persistent. Persistence. That is one thing I would have said in one word, but I rambled on. So
no, that was great. So as we are now at 2059, I think we can happily wrap up. Thank you so much, Angie. Thank you to Tom before your internet died as well. You've both been brilliant panel members, but Angie especially, this has been a marathon for you, and I really appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks to all our viewers, and we will see you next time for Nights at the Round Table. Good night, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye.